Episode 1. Today's show is going to be a cornucopia of the paranormal. We have a haunted painting, black-eyed kids, men in black, and much more. I'm your host, Vincent Medina, and before we get started, I want to thank you for joining us on our first episode of Supernatural Existence. So I want to give you a little rundown of what to expect from us. Supernatural Existence is a podcast dedicated to bringing you the latest in fringe topics, mysteries from around the world, strange phenomena, your encounters with the strange and unusual, offbeat news, science, and technology. We're going to get the show started with a little bit of news. A University of Maryland research team with funding from DARPA's Math of Sensing, Exploration, and Execution program, also known as MC, recently developed a system that enabled robots to process visual data from a series of how-to cooking videos on YouTube. So they sat these robots down and started showing them YouTube videos on how to cook, and these robots were using the correct utensils for the tasks at hand. Now that's just amazing. Robotics has come quite a ways in the past few years, and this is just another demonstration of that. I mean, think about where we'll be in the next few years with this technology. I mean, there was no human input needed to teach these robots the tasks that they needed to accomplish. They were able to do it just by watching a video. Much like our kids watch us do any number of tasks that we do on a daily basis, they pick those up. So that really speeds up the learning time for these robots. Just imagine what type of jobs these robots can take over one day. I mean, they'll be able to learn anything, really. I think right now, what they're going to be limited by is the actual robotic function and not the intelligence portion. They're completely separate problems in the robotics field. What a robot can learn and what it can actually perform. And right now we're limited on the hardware as far as movement, walking, things like that. It's very difficult to teach a robot to walk like a human or carry himself like a human, but that is actually getting better too. Imagine being able to go into Robots R Us with your mom or dad to pick them out a home health robot or just we'll call it a butler robot. It's going to help them out with everyday tasks, maybe cooking, cleaning, just stuff your mom and dad can't or shouldn't be doing. Taking them out for walks, things like that. That would be awesome. And that robot's not going to mistreat him in any way like a human might, So that's a great thing, but at the same time, there are also some drawbacks to this. What if you could teach this robot to do bad things? Rob a bank, any number of things. It's just thinking of that kind of stuff always reminds me of the X-Files episode called Ghost in the Machine. It was about this computer program that was automating this building, and it went nuts and just started offing people in the building. It was a great episode, but we just have to be careful with this technology. There's a lot of good with it, but there's also the potential for bad. So we're just going to have to see where it goes. Speaking of the X-Files, it looks like X-Files may be coming back in 2015. According to a couple of sources that are all over the internet right now, David Duchovny, Gillian Anderson, and Chris Carter, along with Fox, have decided 2015 may be the year. Nobody's really sure what capacity it's going to be, but it's looking more and more like a miniseries. In a quote, David Duchovny says, "I would be more than happy and excited to bring it back and do it again with Gillian Anderson and Chris Carter. I'm assuming that it will happen sooner rather than later now. We'll see what form and how many episodes. Certainly, I cannot nor would I be interested in doing a full season. It will be in some kind of limited form. We're all old. We don't have the energy for a full season." If you're anything like me, you're pretty excited about this news. There's just one thing I'm really hoping that they do, and that's bring back the Lone Gunman. To me, it wouldn't be the X-Files if you didn't bring those guys back. But I can't help feeling I could love this secret agent man, and I can't wait anymore for him to discover me. I got it bad for him. Now I take you from the X-Files to a UFO sighting in New Mexico. This story comes to us from OpenMinds.tv. UFO shows up in New Mexico photo. A New Mexico witness in Santa Ana Pueblo reported anonymous lights showed up in a photo taken that depict 3 lights in a triangle formation. According to the testimony in case 62729 from the Mutual UFO Network, otherwise known as MUFON, Witness Reporting Database, the incident occurred while the witness was on business and staying at the Hyatt Regent in Santa Ana Pueblo, New Mexico at 7:05 p.m. on January 15th, 2015. I used an iPhone 4S and took several photos of the sky around the hotel, the witness stated. At no time did I see the lights that show up in the attached photos. In other words, this was not visible to the naked eye and only showed up when I checked the photos I had taken. The witness provided one image with the MUFON report, which was filed on January 19th, 2015. The witness has an aviation background. Here's a quote from the witness. I'm a licensed pilot with an instrument rating and a former amateur astronomer. So I am accustomed to observing the skies and noticing details. These lights were definitely not visible to the naked eye at the time the photo was taken. The lights did not appear in any other photo, either before or after the one being attached. So I doubt it was a malfunction of the camera in my phone. The witness does not believe any other nearby light sources could be the cause. There were also no other point of light sources in the general area that might have been bright enough to cause the reflection in the lenses. I have no idea what these lights were, but I thought it strange enough to report to you. I find this story interesting for a couple of reasons. UFO sightings aren't that uncommon for the New Mexico area. I mean, you have Roswell, of course, the most famous one, but there have been Black Triangle sightings and other strange air activity. I want to go ahead and go over a couple of things that these lights could possibly be. But let's make no mistake about it, that these are in fact UFOs. And just because I say UFOs does not mean that they are alien craft. It just means unidentified flying object. And that's exactly what we have here. Let's go over a few things that these could be or could not be. Often in these cases, you're going to hear people say they could be Chinese lanterns. Well, I've never seen Chinese lanterns with my own eyes. I've seen videos of Chinese lanterns, and I'm just not seeing it in this case. The lights are floating in perfect triangle formation, at least to me, a perfect triangle formation. But Chinese lanterns, I don't think using just air current would be in a good triangle formation, just, out of coincidence. To me, they would be more staggered. They might even be at different altitudes, or even in a straight line, just not in a perfect triangle. I'm just not buying it for that reason alone, actually. The next thing it could be, or the next thing that someone might say, especially for the area, would be hot air balloons. New Mexico is known for their hot air balloon activity because it's such a great place. It's the beautiful landscape, calm weather. It's just the perfect place for it. And in October, they have the Balloon Festival. That is, from what I understand, the most beautiful scene you can see in New Mexico during that time of year. But the reason I don't buy the hot air balloon either is because I would think you would see the basket in the photo. Just even as a black dot, it would give you some indication that there was something hanging down from that light source. I mean, I could be wrong. So those are a couple of things that I think people would throw around as explanations for those lights. I'm not really buying those explanations as a possible reason for this light sighting. The only thing that I can come up with right now as a natural possibility for the sightings of these lights would be Kirtland Air Force Base. It's about 35 miles south from where these lights were seen. And the reason I'm thinking an aircraft, or actually probably a group of aircraft, is the triangle formation. It's a common formation that the Air Force or any military will fly in. You see at Kirtland Air Force Base, you have the 150th Special Operations Wing and the 58th Special Operations Wing. And those guys have support aircraft like, the Osprey, C-17, C-130, helicopters of various types. They also have the F-16. So this could just be a case of misidentified aircraft. Or I shouldn't say misidentified, but unidentified aircraft being your mundane known aircraft brought to you by the United States Air Force. It's going to sound like backtracking a little bit, but another reason I'm going towards aircraft versus anything else is because the landing lights on your standard aircraft can be seen up to 100 miles away. Now that would explain why we're not seeing the body, because with a air balloon, you're going to have to be very close to the ground in order to see the light source coming off of it to illuminate the balloon for you. And with that, you would see the basket. But with one of these aircraft's running lights, or landing lights, I should say, you can be seen from 100 miles away, just the light source. Now, that's going to pretty much exclude seeing the body. That's kind of why I'm leaning towards this aircraft, being an Air Force aircraft. So I went to the webpage that had this story on it, and it seems that there were a couple of commenters on there that are stating that they have seen this light as well, approximately on the same day, looking from different directions. So that maybe excludes that this is just a simple aircraft running light. And another person had also reported they saw a fourth light, but they each individually started fizzling out. This is kind of weird. I guess this is why this is such an interesting topic, because it could be any number of things. So I guess we're going to keep an eye on this report and see if we see anything else in the next few weeks. If you live in the New Mexico area and you believe you've seen these lights, go ahead and drop us an email. Now I'm going to take you from the enchanted deserts of New Mexico to the rolling hills of England. This next story comes to us from paranormalabout.com, The Anguished Man. My grandmother had this painting in her attic for 25 years. She said it was evil. She told us she used to see a dark figure of a man around the house, and at night she heard strange noises and crying. She told me the artist committed suicide shortly after finishing it, and that he used his own blood mixed in with oils. After she died, we got the painting. It is currently in our basement. Shortly after we got the painting, various members of the family started seeing a dark figure of a man. At night we began hearing noises, and just recently we have heard crying and moaning. The noises have been getting worse. We've been hearing crying coming from the corner of our bedroom. We started seeing a dark figure at the bottom of the bed, just staring at us. It seems to be a middle-aged man, but his features are not very clear. As a former skeptic, I'm very curious, so I'm moving the painting into our bedroom. Previously, it's been in the cupboard downstairs. I'm feeling apprehensive and a little scared. I'll keep updating. The painting is still in our house, and although I've never believed in the supernatural, I'm now convinced there is something evil about this painting. And with the story, he submitted a video, and in the video, at about 25 seconds, the painting just falls over, and then at like 28 seconds, you see a streak of light go across the screen where the painting was. And I find that very interesting, that nothing was going on in the room. There was no fan. There was nobody in there messing with the painting. It just kind of makes me wonder, what knocked that over? That's kind of strange. In this video, you also see a streak of light at about 28, 29 seconds. It's just very strange. I'm going to see if I can get a hold of the original poster for this article and see if we can get some more details on this. Now that we've talked about shadow figures, let's talk about the Man in Black, Pennsylvania's flood visitor. This article comes from WhoFordedBlog.com. Overshadowed and forgotten by the more disastrous Johnstown flood of 1889, the Austin Dam flood, dubbed the Austin Horror in newspapers, was a great tragedy which cost the lives of at least 78 people. Yet perhaps such a high death toll could have been prevented. A mysterious figure stalked the town a year before the September 30th, 1911 flood. Was it just a ghost or a warning left unheeded? In January, before the dam collapsed, another flood of a lesser scale happened in Austin, Pennsylvania. The force of the water caused the dam across Freeman Run to move a few inches downstream, causing a panic among citizens. Built in 1909, the dam was used by Bayless Pulp and Paper Mill to power the facility. Though the company had planned on building a 30-foot thick concrete dam, it settled on a cheaper 20 feet in thickness. But it didn't take long for them to realize their decision was a mistake. The dam bowed out 36 feet under the weight of the water within the first months of its construction, and cracks kept forming. But when the whole dam moved in the January flood, residents weren't waiting around to see what would happen next. Residents fled to higher land in the surrounding hills, waiting nervously in the pouring rain to see if their homes would be swept away in the great torrent. The dam managed to hold that time, but there was something else that made the residents nervous about returning home. The Buffalo and Sequoyahana Railroad Yard had a strange visitor lurking in the shadows. The rail line was first built for hauling lumber in 1885 as the Cinnamahonning Valley Railroad, but it became a branch of the B&S during the merger of several railroads in 1893. The railroad shops in Austin burned down on 2 occasions, once in 1901 and once again in 1906, destroying one of the Goodyear Company stores. Well, it seemed like a likely time for a ghost story to start circulating the town. It was another 4 years before the strange man started to appear. A tall man dressed entirely in black. Either Slender Man liked trains, or could this shadowy, weird-acting person have been one of the legendary Men in Black? Well, we often think of the MIB as being threatening figures trying to silence alien abductees or policing extraterrestrials in snazzy black cars. There have been many reports of them performing odd activities or being pranksters. Most notably, they act very strange and seem puzzled by the simplest of objects. Though residents called it a ghost, there is no indication that the strange figure was some translucent wraith, moaning and rattling its chains and haunting the living. Actually, it was described as being a very tall man, dressed in black, that would appear and disappear mysteriously. Railroad workers were frightened by its queer and spooky actions, which included riding inside passenger cars, lurking about the tracks, and crawling between and running over the cars. The sightings came to an end around the time of the September 30th flood. The Bayless Dam gave way, destroying the mill and most of the town of Austin. People were killed as far downstream as Costello. Debris and railroad equipment, houses, automobile tires littered the valley, and while official count of the dead stopped at 78, some speculate that at least 88 died in total. You might think that was the end of the disasters for Austin, but it happened one more time in 1943. Following the 1911 flood, residents were in such shock and too busy trying to recover their losses to mention the strange black-clad figure to reporters. It wasn't until the one-year anniversary of the flood that reporters for the Honesdale Citizen wrote up an article about it for the October 9th issue. And as mysteriously as he came, the story of the Man in Black once more faded into obscurity. Many people believe the sightings of the Mothman near Point Pleasant, West Virginia, were warnings about the collapse of the Silver Bridge across the Ohio River. Could the same be true of this mystery Man in Black? What happened to this strange Man in Black around the time of the floods? Was he swept away, tired of haunting Austin, or did he turn into the Mothman and fly away to West Virginia? Remnants of the mill can still be seen at what is now Austin Dam Memorial Park. Oh yeah, and there are rumors of buried money still left in the area too. Reading that is kind of the first time I've heard of a Man in Black being anywhere near a catastrophic event like floods or earthquakes, anything like that. And like the article said, usually whenever you hear about an MIB encounter, they're more or less asking questions about UFOs or alien abductions, kind of testing you about what you know about a particular event that may have occurred nearby. And a lot of the time the description for the MIBs are quite odd. They're not really human. They're almost robotic in nature. They ask silly questions about things that are common knowledge to people like you and I. I mean, maybe this article is completely wrong. Maybe this Man in Black is just simply a traveler. I picture a down-on-his-luck encyclopedia salesman, that fancies black suits. Maybe there's just a black cloud that follows this guy, just constantly lightning hitting him. Every town he goes to, there's a flood or a plague or something. Oh, man, I feel bad for this dude. I mean, did nobody try to really talk to him? Also in the article, they start talking about him vanishing and jumping from train car to train car. But then again, they don't specify whether these train cars are moving or the trains are standing still. I'm assuming if it's creeping people out, the trains are moving at a pretty good speed. So maybe there is something to this. While we're on the topic of odd people, we've got a story here from WhoForwardedBlog.com. This is a black-eyed kid story. Encounter with black-eyed kids terrifies airmen at Texas military base. I think it's a pretty good bet that no creature terrified people more in 2013 than the black-eyed kids. And with good reason. Encounters with the spooky children have grown from a creepy tale whispered about on internet message boards to major plot points in Hollywood films, begging the question, are the BEKs the new Bigfoot? Well, that remains to be seen. The stories of personal run-ins with black-eyed kids keep racking up in our inbox, and our nightmares. Take the following account, sent in to us from an airman at a Texas military base. It's one thing to scare a woman alone in her home, but it's another to terrify a trained military man on base. That only goes to show you how frightening these kids really are. Buckle up, this story is a good one. I'm a 6'7", 260-pound airman who was prior Special Forces. About a month ago, while stationed at a base in Texas that I will not disclose, I was up drinking a beer when I heard a knock at my dorm door. I got up out of bed thinking it was my piss mate. Since we have Jack and Jill style bathrooms connecting our rooms, I opened our bathroom door and there was nothing. Being confused as hell, I heard a sharp rapping at my door again, so looked out my peephole. Now the hole being quite settled halfway down the door, I had to bend down to look through it. Standing there in front of me was a boy who looked 17 or 18 at the most. I asked, "What's up?" He looked at me with a smile that can only be described as partially cruel and hungry looking. With a gaunt face, the boy asked me if he could use my phone. I said, "Sorry, bud, I'm about to go to sleep, so try the security forces building across the parking lot." I closed the door, thinking nothing of it. He knocked again, and I walked over to my window, this time to intimidate the boy into leaving me be. I pulled my blinds up and looked straight at him. He looked up at me, and I'd say he was only 5'9" and 140 pounds. Real gaunt and frail-looking guy. Believe me when I say I don't scare easily, but something about him made me feel uneasy as hell. He looked up at me and asked if he could come in again, and then I saw his eyes. They were empty-looking coals. A smile crept to his mouth, that same hungry predatory smile, and I felt goosebumps on my legs and back. Something wasn't right. I said, "I'm going to tell you one more time before I kick your ass to get lost." I turned around to get my phone, and I looked back and he was gone. The only thing that I can't help but shake is that feeling that I'd seen him somewhere before. In Pennsylvania, 2 years before that night, I was working in a gas station late one night. I was working a 7 to 11 shift in late October. Still in high school when I saw him walk across a 4-lane highway to our pumps and stare at me and my brother, who were smoking a cigarette outside. My brother yelled over to him asking if he needed anything, and it was that same reply. He needed to use our phone. My brother told him it was behind the counter and he can't use it, but the kid kept coming closer. We went inside and he stood in front of the shop glass, and he just knocked for about 5 minutes or so until my brother got a bat and went outside. He did the same thing I did. That kid had a little white face and black eyes. I'm uneasy about this. I shouldn't be terrified like this. After I finished reading that story, I started doing a little bit of research, and I found a story that's very similar to it, but instead of an airman, it was a Marine that had the encounter with the black-eyed kid. And so I'm wondering if this story is a put-on, and that to me really goes for all the black-eyed kid sightings. I'm not really too sure if I buy into them all that much, but what do you guys think? I mean, what is with these kids and the weird requests? Like, "Hey, can I borrow your phone? Mister, I'd like to use your toaster. Can I watch your TV?" I'm not sure if I really buy into it. Have any of you had any encounters with the black-eyed kids? If you have, or any other paranormal experience, such as Bigfoot, UFOs, Loch Ness Monsters, email us at supernaturalexistence@gmail.com or hit us up on our Facebook page. Search for Supernatural Existence, and that'll take you to us. If you have any show ideas, you can send those on as well, any topics that you'd like us to cover. Even just let me know what you think of the program, maybe what I can do better. Let me know what you thought of the audio so far. This is my first production ever of any sorts using Adobe, any audio, so this is an experiment for me, so I hope to improve the audio as I go. I want to thank you one last time for joining us on Supernatural Existence. So until next time, take care.
With your feet on the air, your head on the ground. Try